Hi, Mr. Richards here. Today's review is on our Concept Quiz 12 review homework assignment, getting ready for percentages. And so if we look at the first question here, what percentage of a dollar is each coin combination? Well, 6 dimes is worth 60 cents. And this is 60 out of 100 cents that make up a dollar. And anything over 100 means, well, that is our 60%. 2 nickels are worth 10 cents. 4 pennies are worth 4 cents. And so I have a total of 14 cents. If I put that 14 over 100 now, for 14 cents out of 100, this is going to be 14%. Then, 7 quarters and 1 dime. Well, 7 quarters, that's worth $1.75, plus our dime is $1.85. And now that's still going to go out of 100, which means it's 185%. Now, list 3 different combinations of coins, each with a value of 50% of a dollar. Well, 50% of a dollar, we're looking for 50 out of 100. So we're looking for different combinations to get to 50 cents. Well, how about 2 quarters being one of them? What about, if we get really creative here, 1 quarter, there's 25 cents. 1 nickel gets us to 30 cents. And then how about, 1 dime gets us to 40 cents, and 10 pennies gets us up to 50 cents. So there are a lot of different combinations that can get you there. What about 2 different combinations of coins, each with a value of 125% of a dollar? Well, for this, we're looking for 125 cents. And if we're looking for 2 different combinations, once again, I could just go with 5 quarters. I mean, I suppose that's a combination of coins. Kind of boring. But what if we went 4 quarters? That's $1. We can do 2 dimes. That's $1.25. And then 1 nickel can finish it off to get us up to $1.25. All right, let's look now at question 3. Solve each problem. If you get stuck, consider using the double number lines. During a basketball practice, May attempted 80 free throws and was successful on 25% of them. How many free throws did she make? Well, the 80 free throws represents 100% of the shots she took. Our number line here is divided into fourths. It takes us 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. And so if we divide the 80 by 4, 80 divided by 4 will take us down to 20. This is broken down 20, 40, 60, 80. And therein lies our answer. How many did she make if she made 25% of them? She made 20 free throws. The second part, yesterday Priya successfully made 16 free throws. Today she made 150% as many. How many successful free throws did Priya make today? Well, yesterday represents our 100% once again. That's 16. Now, again, this number line is broken into fourths. So if I divide by 4 here, I get 4 free throws is 25%. 8 out of 16 would have been 50%, which I think logically makes sense, I hope. 12 out of 16 is 75%. 16 out of 16 is 100%. And then if we just keep adding 4 here, here's 20 and 24. And so what was 150%? Well, 24 free throws. As we continue on to the next page, at a school, 20% of the 6th grade students said that hip-hop is their favorite kind of music. If 100 6th grade students prefer hip-hop music, how many 6th graders are at the school? Explain or show your reasoning. Let's make a table with students and percent. We know 20% of the 6th grade students prefer hip-hop. We know 100 students prefer hip-hop. So 100 matches the 20%. Of course, we're looking for how many 6th graders are at the school, and that's going to be our 100%. And so ask yourself, how can I get from 20 to 100? Don't say add 80. We're going to multiply by 5. 20 times 5 is 100. And so we can simply take our 100 students then and multiply by 5 to get our solution of 500 students in the 6th grade. Tables can be really nice to visually set that stuff up. In number 5 now, a bakery makes 32 different flavors of muffins. 25% of the flavors have chocolate as one of the main ingredients. Draw a tape diagram to show how many flavors have chocolate and how many don't. Well, 25% we're going to represent using just a single bar. This is the one that has chocolate. Now, if chocolate is just 25%, we're going to have a larger tape diagram then that represents all the flavors, which is 100%. Now, they make 32 different flavors. And if we divide our 32 into the 4 boxes, we get 8. And so each of these then have 8 to represent the 100%. And so 8, 16, 24, 32, it represents the 100%, our 32 different flavors. And so what is then 25% but 8? So 8 have chocolate, 24 do not. Continuing on to number 6, there are 60 students in the school band. 25% of them are 6th graders, 20% are 7th graders, and the rest are 8th graders. How many band members are how many band members are 6th graders? Hey, let's do our table again. I like tables. If we look at students and we look at percent, we know there's 60 students. 100% represents the 60. 25% of them are 6th graders. And so, if we look at 100 to 25, we can divide by 4. So if I take 60 and divide by 4, 60 divided by 4 is 15. So there are 15 6th graders. Can we do something similar now for 7th grade? Well, if we look at students again and percent, 60 students represents the 100%. 7th graders are 20%. And how can I get now from 100 to 20? Divide by 5. So if I take 60 and divide by 5, our solution is 12. So there are 12 7th graders. Now lastly, what percentage of the band members are 8th graders? Well, that's got to be the rest, right? If I started with 100% and I knew that 25% were 6th graders, 20% were 7th graders, that represented 45% of the band. So if I take 100% and minus the 45%, I'll get my solution now of 55% are 6th graders. And showing your work just like that works because here you're like, okay, this is what I know so far, and I'm subtracting from 100. Joey has a monthly budget for his cell phone bill here in number 7. Last month he spent 120% of his budget, and the bill was $80. What is Joey's monthly budget? Explain or show your reasoning. I like tables. I think we've been over that a couple times, right? So, dollars, percent, and this should say his, that's a typo. Dollars were 80. $80 was 120% of the budget, and we're trying to get down to 100%. Well, we need to break this down somehow to get there. If I look at the 120 and divide by 6, that gets me $20. So if I take my 80 and divide by 6, we get $13.33, but that 3 is repeating, so just keep that in mind. And lastly, if I take 20 times 5, and this $13.33 repeating, and multiply by 5, our solution is a little messy. It's $66.66 with that repeating, and sometimes that's going to happen on these types of questions, but our solution here is going to be $66. And if I round that to 67 cents, that would work. You could write $66.66. I'd accept that as well. But yeah. Let's look at number 8. For each problem, explain or show your reasoning. 150 is what percentage of 25? If we look at our number versus percentage table here, 150 is what percent of 25? Well, 25 is our 100% number. And so now we can ask ourselves, can I multiply something by 25 to get to 150? Sure, multiply by 6. And so then take 100 times 6 and you get a solution of 600%. 150 is 600% of 25. What about 25 and 150%? For this one, let's try our tape diagram method. 25 is 150% of what number? Well, if this represents 100%, we could draw a diagram here that represents 150%, right? This would be 150%, and that represents 25. Well, if I break my 25 into those 3 boxes, 25 divided by 3 is this 8.333 thing, which is 8 1/3. And so each of these boxes is worth 8 1/3, or 8.33333 repeating. This is our 100%. And so our solution, if I add those 2 boxes together, would be 16 2/3, or you could get 16.6666 or 16.67, depending on how you do that. So 25 is 150% of 16 2/3. Now we can ask ourselves, what number is 25% of 150? And again, you can use tape diagrams, you can use tables. We'll just try another simple tape diagram here. What number is 25% of 150? Well, if 150 is my whole, I can break that into fourths, right? This would be 100%. And so if I take my 150 and divide by 4, we're going to get 37.5. So in each of these boxes is 37.5. And what am I looking for here? 25%, which is just this box here. And so my solution then is 30, whoop, let's try that again, 37 and a half. So 37 and a half is 25% of 150. It's okay to be getting decimals on here, guys. Don't be intimidated or worried that you're getting decimal answers. Now, a store is having a 20% off sale on all merchandise. If John buys one item and saves $14, what was the original price of his purchase? Explain or show your reasoning. Tables, percentage, dollars. Now 20% off sale means he paid 80%. And that could help us here, right? We don't know the 100% cost. He saved $14. So the $14 is that the 80% paid or the 20% off? Well, he saves 14. So that represents the 20% off. You need to be asking yourself that on these types of questions. Now, how do I get to 100? If I multiply by 5. And 14 times 5 is going to be $70. So if he saved $14, he saved 20%. The 100% is $70. On to our next page. The original price of a scarf was $18. During a store closing sale, a shopper saved $12 on the scarf. What percentage discount did she receive? Explain or show your reasoning. Well, she saved $12. And she saved $12 out of 18. And so if we were just to take literally 12 and divide it by 18, 12 divided by 18 is 0.666666, and it goes on forever, right? And so this would be, if we move that decimal place over 2 times, a 66 point, and let's just go 7% discount if we round up. Hans spent 80 minutes practicing the piano over the weekend. For each question, explain or show your reasoning. Now, Priya practiced the violin for 125% as much time as Han practiced the piano. How long did she practice? Well, if we look at our 125%, and we were to rewrite that as a decimal, it would be 1.25 if we move that decimal point over 2 times. Multiply the 1.25 by the 80 minutes that Han spent practicing. When you do that, you get 100 minutes. Same concept here for Tyler. 46% is going to be 0.46 if we write that percentage as a decimal. Take that and multiply it by Hans' time. And 46 hundredths times 80 is going to result in 36 and 8/10 of a minute. Continuing on now. Question 12. Last Saturday, 1,875 people visited the amusement park. 56% of the visitors were adults, 16% were teenagers, and 28% were children ages 12 and under. Find the number of adults, teens, and children that visited the park. Well, I'm going to set up a table, but simply to organize the work here, okay? Let's go with people. And draw this down. Whoops, that didn't work. Let's keep it going. Maybe. There we go. People and percent. We know 1,875 people represent our 100% of the population, but that's not what we're focused on right here. With these being stranger percents, if we look at the adults first, we know the adults represented 56%. So if we were to take our 1,875 and multiply it by 0.56, that's the 50%, or excuse me, the 56% as a decimal. 0.56 times 1,875 is 1,050. So there are 1,050 adults. Let's take a look now at our teens. Let's go with teens. Teens were 16%. And so 1,875 was the total, times 0.16, and 1875 times 0.16 is 300 teens. And if we finish now with, I'll just write kids for this one. Start off with 1,875. We're going to multiply that by, let's see, 28% as a decimal is 0.28. So 1,875 times 28 hundredths is, survey says, 525. So we can take our percentages as decimals to simplify. Now, our last question here, at least our last question on this page, order from greatest to least. Now, you got to find all these little things now. So, 40% of 160. Let's take 0.40 and multiply it by 160. So 0.4 times 160 is 64. Now 250% as a decimal is 2.50. When you multiply that by 26, you get 65. Wow. Now 9% as a decimal is not 0.9, it's 0.09. When you move that decimal over twice to the left, be careful. A lot of times we accidentally write 0.9. That's 90%. So 0.09 for 9% times 700 is 63. And if we're going from greatest to least here, our greatest is the 250% of 26. Our next is 40% of 160. I'm going to zoom out here a little bit to make this fit. And our last answer, it's going to look a little different, but our smallest was actually this time 9% of 700. 65, 64, 63. Last page, woo! A sign in front of a roller coaster says, you must be 40 inches tall to ride. What percentage of this height is 32 inches and then 62 inches? Well, 32 out of 40 is what we are. And again, look at this as division. 32 divided by 40 is 0.8, which remember is really 0.80, and so this is 80%. Now, what is 62 out of 40? If we take 62 and divide by 40, we get 1.55, which is 155%. And I am starting to assume now that we're getting better at moving this decimal point over 2 times to the right here to go from decimal to percent. Let's continue on. At a hardware store, a tool normally costs $60. During a sale this week, the tool set cost $12 less than usual. What percent of the usual price is the savings? Well, the $12 is the savings, right? That's out of a cost of $60. So if we were to take 12 and divide it by 60, we're going to get that percentage we're looking for, which is 0.2, which is 20%. Remember, we need to move our decimal place over 2 times to the right. So 20% is our solution because 20% represents the $12 less, which represents the savings. A bathtub can hold 80 gallons of water. The faucet flows at a rate of 5 gallons per minute. How much of the tub will be filled? What percentage of the tub, that is, will be filled after 8 minutes? Let's find out how many gallons that is first. If we have 5 gallons per minute times 8 minutes, that gets us 40 gallons. And if I take my 40 gallons that I filled it up with, divided by the 80 that there is, we'd be at 0.5, which, again, 0.50, which is simply 50%. And lastly, Lynn's family has completed 70% of a trip. They have traveled 35 miles. How far is the trip? Sometimes it helps to visualize in a table. We may use the table to solve. We may not. We're looking for the total 100%. we know 70% of the trip is 35 miles. And so we could use the table here, because if we break this down to 10, we can divide by 7 there. And 35 divided by 7 is 5. And then our last step, 10 times 10 gets me to 100%, and 5 times 10 gets me to 50. So how far is the trip? 100% of the trip is 50 miles. And that's it for this homework review. Happy studying!